What's up, everyone? It's your boy ID Cutie here. On stream, we've had multiple people asking about how do I warm up, how do I train my aim, and how do I keep the consistency flowing, and basically how do I get better at what I do when it comes to hit scan and projectile. I've seen this question come up quite a bit. One is consistency is a little bit different from aiming per se. Consistency is something that comes with time, something that you have to devote a lot of hours out of your day to play a lot. It's kind of like a switch in your brain. There are a couple people out there who might just have to play the game maybe an hour or two a day to wake up the next morning and feel like they're aiming like the day before, right? And then there's other people, I like to call them mortal people, who will play the game, I don't know, say anywhere from 1 to 5 hours a day. And then they wake up the next morning and they couldn't hit, they couldn't shoot the side of a barn even if they stood next to it. And that's the inconsistency question. And the problem with those is that I think they should be dedicated to a completely different video. Today we're trying to hit down and crack down on aiming and how we can be sharper with our aim and how we can use the game to make it better as well. So we're going to go through some projectiles and we're going to go through mostly hit scan today, but there's definitely a little small segment for projectiles as well, but mostly hit scan. So first what you want to do is you want to make a brand new custom game, right? And usually I just put it to invite only so you don't really get people in here. You press settings, and in this button right here, you do import code, and in this code you want to type KK49M, and then you press OK. You press start. You're gonna wait for it to load in. Lijiang Tower is the map that we want. For example, I like to pick soldier here. And then all you do is walk straight up. So a couple things about this particular game mode or custom game mode is you'll have all these units. All characters in the game, by the way, will be going up and down, kind of like an aerial form like this. They'll be going up and they will be going down. They're all random. There's no set pattern. Some of them will be in the middle, some will go for the right, some will go to the left. So a little bit of how this works is you have the distance here and attack spheres. Forward basically means that you're pulling them towards you. And the maximum you can do it is -5. So now they are as close up to you as humanly possible. You can do 10. Now they're 5+ away. And you can do 15. Now they're a bit further away. And then you can do 20, which is the furthest away. I would say that I use this tool about or ish maybe an hour and a half, maybe sometimes even 2, depending on how long I play for the day. But I feel like I always want to get like an hour a day. This does keep me pretty fresh and it keeps me on target. I figured we're gonna go through this tool today. So usually when I start my day, I put it all down to 5. I like using 5. I mean, it's preference, to be honest. I like 10 is probably the best distance, which is what the original is set at. 5 does make them go a little bit closer, but 10 does allow you to not having to look up or down to actually shoot them. Then you can just have your cursor in the middle and you will see them. But right now they're jumping a little bit out of frame, like on the bottom and sometimes on the top, depending on the arc. But this is basically what I do. So there's different ways you can do this. And in my training regimen, and I think a lot of people try and mimic what I do, is that when I want to practice soldier, I usually practice tracking. So basically what you want to be spending your time here doing is kind of like keeping your cursor on target and try and hit them as much as possible. I used to keep going with soldier until I got a 6th double kill, but back then I only used this game mode to shoot at other widows, and basically the characters you see floating now is like a mixture of the entire hero roster. Before it used to be like Lucio, Ashe, Widow, Sombra, like it used to be 200 HP heroes. But you kind of get the gist of what I'm trying to do here. So kind of like you want to get your brain functioning a little bit, you want to scramble a little bit, and want to track your targets as best as humanly possible. And when you feel like you do that on a proper level, it's time to swap to the other one. But this is just to give you an idea of what I tend to do when I pick soldier here. So I track the target, I try and keep the burst around 6 shots, reset for half a second, and then let go, and then you keep doing it again. And I've learned that with 6 bullet pattern and a small pause, about half a second in between, the crosshair is actually 100% hit scan. You know how you shoot a little bit more with soldier, his spread kind of goes all over the place. But if you keep it to 6 bullets with a small pause, half a second, you circumvent that entire spread, and you can just keep shooting like if it were hit scan, like a laser gun, which it is. But yeah, without the spread. Anyways, I think we get the point. And there's a couple things. So there's a Winston, a good idea of good tracking. This is just to kind of showcase how it works and what I do when I play this game mode, because I feel like it's important to kind of outline the way I think and the way I work when I use this. Obviously, it's been covered on the Twitch channel a couple times before, but you know, there's always like new people joining in, new followers who don't really understand what we're doing, and you know, they maybe weren't there a couple months ago when we first brought this up. So I think it's important to repeat yourself. I mean, that's part of being a Twitch streamer anyways, or a streamer in general. You have to repeat yourself quite a bit. But to give you an idea, I get it that it's very difficult for the average Joe, say whether you're bronze or all the way to GM, somewhere in between. Doesn't really matter what your rank is. I understand that it's difficult to just do what I just did, right? Like, not everyone who's watching this is going to be able to just pick up this aim training mode and look at a character and just be like, oh, dinking headshots, ooh, 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 killing 3 targets, ooh, 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 right? Like, I get that. I've coached 2 people just recently. And no, coaching isn't open. It's just one was a friend and the other one really, really wanted help. So I took some time and helped them. Either way, there's 2 things that I taught them. And what I learned is by throwing them in this custom aim mode is that it worked really, really well. And the second of all, it didn't really take that long to see an improvement either. But there were some minor complications, and both of them ended up struggling trying to mimic what I just did. When I do this, I try to focus my hit scan aim onto the head target on the character, whoever I am shooting. Right now, I was just showcasing before what you could be doing, or basically what I'm doing. But the problem is, not everyone is able to land every single shot in a head hitbox like this. Instead of trying to focus on the head hitbox of the character, I just told them one thing, and I wanted them to start with just holding the crosshair on the biggest target on the screen, which is in this case, I guess, Marissa Diva. It's Diva, right? So I told them, just hold your crosshair onto the Diva's hitbox, as long as you can. Kind of like this. Because the big difference here is that the only thing that I'm doing is that I'm putting my crosshair into the head hitbox of the character. But as long as you have your crosshair in the character, you're good to go. This is training in its own way. And I think it all comes down to how much time and devotion you're willing to spend on it. But, I mean, say if you have half an hour, maybe, I don't know, an hour a day, maybe less, I think this is a great way to start. And whenever you feel like you have your crosshair unlocked onto the target at any given time and you feel like this is too easy, all you need to do is start incorporating shots into what you're doing, right? So it's the same thing again. You put your crosshair onto the target and now you start shooting. Here's another Diva. Do the same thing again. And ignore the fact that these are headshots, okay? Just ignore that. Pretend they're body shots. And here's the important detail. You don't want to hold your left click while you're tracking, because that doesn't take any effort, right? It doesn't require any effort to do so. So the next step, instead of, now we've gone through just holding your crosshair onto a target. That was the first step. If you feel like this is too easy, the second step is incorporating shots into it, right? So you would shoot 6 shots, wait, 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 6 shots. Okay. The step beyond this is putting your crosshair onto the head hitbox of any target. If you feel spicy, you can take a smaller hitbox, but I would take something bigger. I mean, it's all about putting small goals and not massive goals, right? So if you have a lot of smaller goals, it'll be better and feel better when you hit them than to put an entire goal from the beginning to the end where you kind of like, you know, I feel like a lot of people tend to just jump into it and they kind of look at this and they're like, oh shit, ID can do this, I'm going to do this as well. And that's what I typically would call a pretty unreasonable goal. If you aren't well versed in FPS games in general, and you aren't spending a lot of time practicing in your free time, then you can't accomplish what someone who plays the game 10 to 12 hours a day would. So that's what I mean by not setting up too big of a goal, because you just crush yourself and you feel very sad and disheartened. So what I mean by a small goal is that we take the first step where you hold the crosshair onto a target, like this. And when you feel like this is easy, you put 6 shots into it, pause, 6 shots, pause, 6 shots, and pause, and 6 shots, pause. Now that's another small goal. If you feel like you've completed all these 3 steps, now it's time for a little bit more of a spicy round, which is you want to take a crosshair onto a 10 target or a smaller hitbox, completely up to you, and now you put crosshair on the head hitbox. And that's your job. Now this is hard for me sometimes, so I don't blame you if this is hard for you, but this one is a little bit difficult, but it comes with time. So basically you want to keep your crosshair only on the head hitbox of the target that you're aiming at. And the same as before previous steps, you want to be taking 6 shots at the head, pause, 6 shots at the head, which is the final step. If you did all the previous steps and they felt easy to you, then this is where you should be at. And if you're struggling with this, that means that you're at the right step. If this feels too easy for you, then holy shit, dude, I mean, you're pretty good at gaming, I'm gonna say that. But this is a good way to start. So if you were to incorporate shots into this, what would we do? It would look something like this.
Hesitation is your weakness.
Scorpion's hitbox is a little bit wonky. And again, I don't want you guys to look at this and just be like, oh my god, I can't do this. It takes time, and it also takes practice. And I want you to set up small goals instead of a big goal. And I feel like with small goals, you'll hit them faster. It might not feel as rewarding as a massive goal, but you'll get there. And those are the 4 steps that I use when I track, right? So sometimes I feel like I want to hit body shots, I shoot at the body. And sometimes if you want to do the spiciest of them all, you only go for the head hitbox. And remember, it is okay to accidentally hit the body while you're going for headshots. It happens, it happens. You can't stop it from happening. But yeah, I think you all get the gist of it. And this is kind of like how I warm up with my tracking. And I feel like a lot of you guys have been asking about this, and I figured, well, I usually do this off stream. Sometimes I do it on stream, but mostly off stream. And I figured, why not just kind of record what I'm doing and tell you guys what I'm doing so you guys can make use of it. Either ways, that was tracking. Very, very simple steps. Nothing very difficult here. We're gonna swap character. We're gonna go to McCree. So Soldier I use for tracking because I feel like he's the most tracking orientated hero in the game. Because of his low damage and the fact that basically to excel at Soldier you need to be good at tracking. So I figured, hey, he's gonna be my tracking guy. When I pick McCree, there's 2 things I do. One, I put them back to 10 yards. And here's what I like to do. There's 2 things I do with McCree. And again, like when you're playing this game mode, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to follow what I'm doing, but I just kind of want to give you guys an idea of what I do when I do these characters. So when I pick McCree, there's 2 things I focus on. One is purely focusing on headshots on any target. So I try and shoot head hitbox targets on characters and kill them as fast as possible. And when I say kill, I mean in the game. Second of all, there's one thing I like to call target acquiring. And this is something I do the very, very first step when I start. So what I do, and here's the goal. You want to hit the highest up target first. So for example, it would be Brig, Orisa, Diva, Zarya, Mei, and then Mei, Orisa, Mei, Diva. Mei, Orisa, Brig, Diva, and Mei. So you want to go between these targets and shoot them once before you move on to the next target. And honestly, don't do 10. Put it at 5 again. I think 5 is better for starting. I usually do 10 just because I like to see further away, but I think you can start at 5. So it would look something like this. Anyways, I think you guys get the gist of it. And you can go on for as long as you feel like you can endure it. I usually do this about, I would give or take maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know. I think average maybe 3 minutes without stopping. And I feel like that just enables my brain. Specifically in the mornings when I feel like I have really bad aim, I kind of do this to kind of enable it all. And this is my starter. This is how I start my day before I go into ranked games or scrims or whatever you guys think I'm doing. And this is basically how I get going. The tracking with the Soldier comes after this part. And again, don't get discouraged if you don't do as well as me. There's probably some people watching right now who's testing this and they do way better than me. That's great. Even if you're missing a couple shots, let's pretend I'm someone else and we just go kind of like missing on purpose here. But let's pretend that this is you. And that's okay. Just keep going. until you feel like you're hitting targets, you know? And if it's going too fast, then make sure you just want to hit a couple targets in the air, right? It can all be sort of rescheduled to how you feel and how you want it to go. Just because I do this doesn't mean that you have to. It's just a guideline what you can do and kind of what I'm doing. After all, I mean, today's video is kind of like people have been asking what I'm doing to keep myself fresh and up there, and I kind of like, oh, I kind of want to share what I'm doing, so this is what I'm doing right now. But this works really well for me. The next step I do with McCree is one that people find a little bit interesting, and this one is purely focused on headshot a target and headshot it until it's dead. The entire goal here is just to shoot the target in the head until they die. And this one is a little bit difficult, because when I always start with this, I don't do this well. It takes a couple minutes for me to get used to hitting headbox targets, specifically with McCree. Okay, I got a little bit lucky there, but typically, let's see here. Okay, I feel a bit better. Okay, let's do the headshots. By the way, don't worry about Zarya. She is extremely difficult to hit in this game mode because your hitbox is kind of tilted upwards. It will happen. You kind of get the point, right? And I do this because I feel like when I play ranked games, I need to hit headshots more often than not. And I feel like this particular little training point here actually helps me a lot. This one does translate well into games. There's a lot of times right now where characters are up in the air or in the target. I kind of just like this aerial view. I'm sure you could do this standing on the ground as well, but I've tried different custom aim trainers and I don't really feel like they do as much as this one. I like when my targets are constantly moving in an unpredictable arc from time to time. I like it. It does. It's a little bit food for thought. I'm not hitting as many headshots as I'd like to. I haven't played the game for like 2 days as of making this video. So I will say I'm a little bit rusty, but the whole goal here is to put all your energy in trying to headshot the target that you're shooting at. It's definitely a little bit hard for me right now. And as I say that, I get a triple. Nice. So this is basically the second part of the hit scan start that I usually do. I kind of try and do all the soldier trainings, and I try to do the McCree ones as well. Sometimes I feel like not spending like 20 minutes in training before I start ranked, and I just go straight into ranked mode. But I do feel like this is important, and this does help. So basically what I would do is I would do this to when I feel like it's somewhat acceptable and I feel like I'm hitting a lot of headshots when they're up in the air like this. If I feel like I'm sort of satisfied with the result, kind of like right now for some reason, okay then. When I feel like it's acceptable, I kind of just move on. Which you can do with, like, I don't know, say you can do with Widow, or you can jump with any other character. But you get the point. Now this is the McCree segment. Moving on. What I like to do with Widow, and this one gets a little bit tricky. I know there's a couple people playing Widow. So you would take backwards all the way to 20, right? And I personally feel like this space isn't enough. I like to practice long-range shooting, and that's where I pick my Widow. So like when I play Havana, and I play, you know, I think Havana's a great example. I mean, Lunar Colony would be one as well, but we don't really play that one anymore since it was taken out of the map pool. When you're doing long-range shooting, I like to do this because I feel like whenever I pick Widow, I focus on long-range shooting the most. And I feel like this one helps a fair bit. And basically, again, what we're trying to do here is to shoot headbox hit targets. If shooting heads only is difficult for you, you can do body shots. It doesn't really matter. I like to, because like whenever I start my day, I can't hit anything. I have inconsistency issues. I definitely do. So what I like to do here is I just like to get shots on target. And when I feel like things are moving in the direction I want them to, I start going for the headshot. So like, we can try. So for example, we would start around here. I kind of just wanted to touch upon Widow a little bit more. I like to shoot as far away as I humanly possibly can, and I figured this was the best way to do it. I find myself in situations when I pick Widow, I find it on like maps like, you know, Havana. I find it on maps that have long distance shooting. Gibraltar is one of them. And I feel like this is where I train them for. So if I haven't gotten one of those maps yet, I usually go into the training range like this, and I pick Widow, and I just do this. Because I feel like whenever I take duels with Widows or other characters in the game, sorry, heroes, this is usually the distance where I will engage them from. So I feel like this kind of does help and warm me up a little bit. But this is kind of like what I do. So we can get another headshot here. Boom. 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 Bam. Bosh. Perfect.
No one can
So that's Widow.
and
And I'm not saying that you have to take it further away. Like, for example, I like it here. This is my low corner. I like to take him there because that's kind of like how I do. But if you're a player who wants to practice Widow just in general, I mean, this mode works great for you. You can just stand up here, which is just 20 yards exactly. Which is, you know, it's a little bit closer. But you would just do the same thing again. I usually just go for headshots here when I'm at this range. It's not super easy, but you know, this is just what you would do. And if you feel like this is like something that you're already good at, you can also practice close range targets as well. I mean, anywhere you can do 5 yards right here. Now they're super close. Maybe some people feel like they're really bad up close, and this would be the game mode for you. And that's what you need to do. Anyways,
no one can
there's
hide
one
from
more.
my
One more. So, in particular, damn, she was screaming.
business?
So for Ashe, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting. I don't really have Ashe for anything when it comes to this game mode. I kind of just play her to get the vibe out. So what I mean by that is I kind of just get her out there because I kind of want to just kind of warm up a little bit with her, but I don't really do anything special. She doesn't, her character kit in this particular aim tutorial doesn't really provide anything that I need. Sometimes I'd like to do like, you know, shoot, shoot, hit, or shoot, shoot, hit, something like that. Like you practice the KO combo, like 1-1-2 combo. That's it. 1-1-2, 1-1, 1-1-2, 1-1-2. I couldn't even hit that shot. 1-1-2, 1-1-2, 1-1-2. 1-1-2. Again, I don't really have anything special for her, but that's like if I were to find something. If you find Widow a little bit, you know, hard to aim with, I mean, I guess you could take Ashe instead and just shoot for the targets in the head, like you would do with Widow. But now you don't have to charge up your shots. Now you kind of just have to line up your crosshair with the target and shoot them in the head like this. Oh, 2, 3, 4. How many can we do? 1, 2. Boom. So when we talked about, I don't know really why it's been a discussion lately, but I feel like a lot of people are discussing the Hanzo. And I think there's 2 projectile characters. Actually, here, let me take a look at the roster.
Redemption.
So there's, in my opinion, 2 characters in the game that are projectile that can be used, and I feel like Hanzo is definitely one of them, and I feel like Echo is one of them too. But a viewer actually pointed out that you can play Junkrat too, because he said to me, think about it, whenever you blow someone up with a mine, they always have some form of airtime, which is completely true. And you could, in theory, pretend that when the targets on this aim training map are flying, that you have just hit them with a mine, so they're flying. So you could use Junkrat to kind of learn where the grenades arc and where to put your crosshair to hit a target in a certain distance and certain air. So that does work. But for me, I like Hanzo. And it's no surprise, I play Hanzo a lot on stream. I like him a lot, he's one of my favorite characters. I prefer to have this set to 10, and you kind of just go to town with him. And it's no surprise, I love Hanzo. I think it's a lot of fun to play. I think the biggest issue that he's struggling from right now is that his projectile speed are kind of dookie. But beyond that, he's still a very fun character, and I actually don't really think it's that bad. He's just... I don't think it's that Hanzo is bad. I think it's more pointed towards, you know, there are better options. Hanzo isn't a bad character. Just other characters are better. You don't need to name them. You already know. If you feel like 10 yards is too much, put him to 5, and then do the same thing again. Prediction is great here. Obviously, what I try to do when I play here is I try and hit them in the head. or sometimes, you know, predict their arc movement used with body shots. I feel like body shots is very easy. It's the headshots that are really difficult. I feel like I can always hit body shots at a, you know, pretty constant, but when it comes to headshots, they are a little bit more difficult. So, I mean, if you feel like you're struggling with Hanzo and you just want to hit body shots, then, I mean, you can focus on that. And if you feel like the body shot section is pretty easy for you, you can start shooting at the head instead. And, I mean, even me, I find it difficult at times. It's not easy. But it basically would look something like this.
Double kill. Double kill. Triple kill.
An inspired performance. My aim
Double
is
kill.
true.
And that's the Hanzo segment. There's a couple of things I'd like to talk about when it comes to this. There are a couple small things I want to note. And there's one. I think it's important to take it easy and not do this aim tutorial video after looking at the video and seeing what I'm capable of. I'd rather that you would be competing against yourself. I feel like comparing yourself to anyone else who has been part of the pro scene, who has been playing professionally for many, many years, I think that's unfair to you. I think what you need to do is to compare your own results with your previous results. So if you're training 1 week and you feel like you're doing better the next week, I would consider that a win in itself. I feel like you should never ever compare yourself or feel discouraged because someone does this better than you. You have to remember in the back of your head that everyone's different. Everyone takes different times to learn different things, and everyone gets adjusted to certain things faster than you, and some people just are super, super slow at it. Maybe you're in the middle, maybe you're in the bottom, maybe you're in the top. It doesn't really matter. What I want you to do is to follow the steps and don't get discouraged. The people that I've coached in the past, I've thrown this custom game mode to them, and I've seen it working. If they do it right, it works splendid. It works exceptionally well. I'm not saying that if you pick this particular aim tutorial up, that all of a sudden you're going to be, you know, you're going to be having a GM player's aim. But what I am saying is that if you have the time and dedication, this game mode will definitely help you achieve that goal faster than if you weren't going to do it. So, hey, I mean, if it works, right? Another question that is kind of like tied into the subject of this is that alongside people asking about my aim and my training regimen and how I practice my aim, a lot of people get surprised. They ask me, ID, do you use Kovacs? Do you use AimLab? Do you use Ozu? What external programs do you use? And I tell them nothing, and they say bullshit. No. Overwatch, and I'll tell you guys why, and my opinion on this, and listen, none of you guys who are watching this have to agree with me, but I think it's important to listen to what I have to say, because this is my theory. Overwatch is a game that has no static hitbox, and what I mean by static hitbox is that every single character in the game is unique in its own way. It has a different size body hitbox, and it has a different size head hitbox. No character has the same hitbox, they're all unique. Characters also have different movement speed, different footsteps. They're all different and unique in their own sense. Every hero, that is. When you look at a game like CS, or you look at a game like Quake, or look at a game like Unreal Tournament, or Fortnite, whatever game you guys are looking at, all these games have one thing in common. They have what I call static hitboxes. That means that you can have the same hitbox for every single character, which means that, you know, in AimLab or Kovacs, when you're shooting at a static hitbox, you will learn how to get a better aim in depth by just doing that training program by itself. But I always felt that a lot of the time that those programs don't really, you know, those games don't really help with Overwatch. What is static in Overwatch is something that I asked myself a while ago, and I found out there's absolutely nothing in this game that remains static. There's nothing that remains the same. They're all unique. So what I ended up doing was, well, I'm not going to use any of these programs. I'm just going to try and find something that works in the game. And I took a couple people who have been using AimLab and Kovacs or whatever program you might be using. I'm just taking the two ones because I know them. And I told them to try this instead. And this was before the video. And you know, after a couple, you know, weeks of using, the replies obviously varied a little bit. But, you know, from a test period from like a month or so, they felt like they were actually doing a little bit better with the aim training thing. I'm not saying that they did exceptionally well, but they felt like they did better. And I wonder if that comes down to the fact that Kovacs and AimLab and all these programs are training you to shoot at a static hitbox when Overwatch is in fact the complete opposite. Anyways, those are my two thoughts on the matter. I think that if you want to learn Overwatch and you want to learn aiming in Overwatch, whether it be projectile or hit scan, I think you should be focusing what the game has to offer. Obviously, there's ways to do this. You can play the game, you can go through your own VODs, you can record your own VODs and go through them, you can sit down and just check other people's POVs, you know, you can go on and on and on. But I think if you do incorporate this little aim guide that I got going on here, I think that it will drastically change the way you play, and I do think you're going to feel a bit more comfortable the way you aim. But anyways, I kind of just wanted to shoot this out there, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really appreciate you guys hanging out. So I just want to say a huge thank you guys for watching. If you guys happen to like the content I'm doing here, there's going to be more guides and tutorials coming up, and I really appreciate you guys drop the sub. Actually, yeah, you do whatever. Dropping a sub is nice though, but you can do whatever you want. You can find me at IDDQD on Twitch, basically twitch.tv/IDDQD. I stream every day. But yeah, more aim guides and tutorials coming up. And if you guys have any suggestions, as always, please leave it in the box below. Hope I didn't talk too much, and thanks so much for hanging out, guys. Peace!